Happy Hispanic Heritage Month, everybody. This is the Slider Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Queen of Swords. This show was short-lived, lasting only for one season from the year 2000 to 2001. It is one of my all-time favorite television series. It is basically a female version of Zorro. But this show is not a Zorro-like spinoff or reboot. It's kind of more like a ripoff and everything. And sadly, the show got canceled. See, this is a Canadian show, not an American one, and not from no other country, because most of the Zorro shows nowadays are from like other countries, like the one on Amazon, and there's another one that's supposed to be coming out. I forget what streaming site, but I think it might be a French country they're gonna film in or something like that. I can't really remember. But yes, this was a Canadian show, and it ran on their television station, and after 8 episodes, they canceled it. They needed to give this show more breathing time, because it's really good. Like, it's really, really good and everything. Yes, there are some episodes that are just kind of like fillery. There are some episodes that are just kind of not as good as some. But there are a lot of good episodes in this series, and it is a shame it got canceled way too soon. This show ran in syndication in America. That's how I was able to watch it and stuff. And I still remember, I was probably like in my senior year of high school, probably. And like, I just remember flipping through like the channels on the weekend, and this show came on. And I was just so amazed. I'm like, man, this is awesome. It's Zorro, but like a female. And so like, it just pisses me off that they just canceled this. One, just canceled it. And two, they just canceled it too soon. And that's the problem with some networks. It's all like, you know, the ratings aren't what they want. And so they just like, all right, let's just get rid of it and stuff. But like, a lot of people actually really love this show. Like, you know, but this show is starting to be forgotten. That's the sad thing about it. And this show is just as good as Zorro. And like, I remember, like, it was kind of like, I don't know, at first people thought it was like a bootleg type DVD that came out, but it's actually there's 2 DVDs that came out. One's the Japanese version, the other's French, and there's never been a North American release, sadly, which pisses me off. But you know, it is like English dub, so you can like understand it and stuff like that. At least one of the versions are, and somebody put it like on YouTube for a while, and some of the episodes are on YouTube, but you can actually watch it on Tubi. It's on Tubi, it's on Freevee, I think. It might be like on another one. Tubi actually took it off for like a couple of months, but then brought it back, thankfully. And so I'm so happy it's on Tubi, man. Like thank God, you know what I'm saying? Because like, you know, I remember I used to record this on the VHS days and everything, but I don't have none of my VHSs no more. You just don't know, man. Like, you know, back in those like older days, the weekend was a good time if you went to school, man. It's like you wake up early in the morning to watch cartoons. You be watching TV all afternoon, all night. And if you didn't have like cable, which I have cable at that time, but you know, you used to watch like syndicated stuff at night, and you know, it was just good times back then, man. Like, it really was. And so like, ironically, this show got sued twice after it got canceled. So, like, and it's crazy how it got sued, because one of the persons that co-created the show sued it. The show was created by David Abram Morowitz and Linda Luckins. And Linda is the one who actually sued when the show got canceled because they would not give her a creator's credit for like the show. And of course, that's very important because one, she co-created the show. And like, you know, she has every right to have her name on there. And you get like more money and you get perks. Like people like, oh, you created this show, maybe you can create this one or something like that, you know? So they later added it on, I believe. But then for the DVD release, her name is nowhere to be found. Then the second person to sue this show was that of Sony, because they said, hey, you know something? This show's a little too similar to Zorro. Now, when I reviewed Jack of All Trades, I said that, you know, the people responsible for Zorro, you know, helped get this show canceled. My bad. I keep getting that mixed up because the show was already canceled by that time, but they were still pissy and still tried to sue. At least Sony did. Because, you know, they came out with that, what was it? Was it Mask of Zorro or was it Mark of Zorro? I think it was Mask of Zorro from, you know, with Antonio Banderas and stuff. So, because when you watch this show, yes, it is way too similar to Zorro. The only thing they don't have is that one deaf person and stuff. But it's just very, very similar. Even like, you know, the horse, like reins and gear and everything is identical to that of the one that Zorro horse wore and everything. So they tried to sue, but it got dismissed by a judge saying, you know, whatever similarities the shows might have, Zorro's public domain right now. So, you know, anybody can just do whatever it is they want to do and everything. And so they lost that. Now, the show was filmed in Spain and it ran for 22 episodes. That was 45 minutes around that time. And like the theme song, boy, I love the theme song. It's so like amazing. It's called Behind the Mask and it's sung by Jose Feliciano. I'm not sure how to say his last name. But he has an amazing voice and the song is just like amazing. There's two different versions. There's one version in Spanish, it's on YouTube, and then there's the English one, is also on YouTube. And I love both of them and stuff. And like, you know, the intro is just like amazing. It's one of the best intros I've ever seen in television. Like I could just watch the intro over and over and over again. Like, you know, like I love intros. I used to record actually more intros to TV shows than I did the actual TV show, or sometimes just the action. But those intros, if it had a good intro, boy, you can rock and roll to it. Now, the show takes place in the early 19th century, in the year 1817. And it's in, like, you know, California, but not just any California, when California was owned by Spain. I remember when I used to watch this show, and the series finale. By the way, the series finale is just like a random episode. It's not really like a finale. You can just literally just insert it anywhere in like the season. So they never got a proper ending. Technically, it does not leave off on no cliffhanger because the last episode wraps, you know, that episode up. But, you know, Tessa never finds out who murdered her father. So in that way, it does leave off on a cliffhanger and stuff. And so I remember in the finale, Montoya is all like, you know, if my superiors find out, I will have to go back to Spain in like disgrace. And I'm just kind of like, Spain. Why the heck is he going to Spain for? And I'm all like, because I remember my friend told me that Zorro, was like Mexican, and he was fighting for like the dispute between Mexico and California and all that corruption that was going on around that time. And since this show was similar to that, I'm just like, what the heck Spain got to do about this? Spain had a lot of influence back in the day when it came to like England, when it came to like, a little bit of France, when it came to that of like America and stuff. So Spain used to own California back in the day. And so like it was called what was it called? It was called Alta California or Navarro, California. I can't say the Navarro word, but yeah, it was basically like, the Spanish version of like, that country and stuff. And it's just insane knowing that they ruled it and everything. And so they owned it until about, let's see. I think they gave it up in 1822. And then I think Mexico acquired it in they acquired it in like 1882. But then it didn't become an official like part of the United States of America until about 1850. So they have a really interesting like past and everything, And so this show is about a woman named Tessa who returns home from Spain because her father sent her there when she was 7 years old. And she lived with like, her aunt and her uncle and her 3 cousins. And by the age of 20, she learned how to fence. And so when she returned home, because she got a letter saying that he had passed. And I've already reviewed the first episode. I've also reviewed a couple of like the other episodes and stuff. But basically, when she comes home, she realizes that in the what is it? Is it San Helena or is it Santa Helena? I think it's Santa Helena. That's like the town they live in. And it's been pretty much like corrupted by the person in charge, Colonel Montoya and everything. And so like she just has like all these questions, but she can't get no real answers and stuff. Who killed her father? He's a Dom, and he's very important. They're kind of like, Doms are kind of like these very rich aristocrats that are kind of like the Senate, kind of. They, throw in some money here and there, and like, and it's kind of like, I don't know, they really don't pass no laws, but it's like they have influence, let's put it like that. And so like her father was one, and so she quickly realizes that people don't want to say what happened, making her think that he was murdered and didn't just like fall off his horse and stuff. And so like she's realizing that the government there is very corrupt by Montoya and the captain of the guard, Grisham, and stuff. And so she has a dream, and her father meets her in her dream, and he tells her of like her destiny. Only she can like, help like bring justice to like this town from like the corruption and stuff like that. She dons an all black costume with a black mask, a red like kind of like a shawl, but like wrapped around her waist. And she carries a sword, whip, and dagger. And there she just fights the injustice and everything, going by the name of the Queen of Swords, and even leaving a tarot card with the Queen on there and stuff. And so, of course, she's going to be a pain in the butt of that of Montoya, a very corrupt, crooked official. This man is a great villain. He's up there with Lex Luthor and stuff. And so basically it's just always one thing after another. Something bad happens. It's mostly because of, like, you know, gangs coming into town, or it's that of Montoya. He tries to always steal like the Dom's money and other people money, gold. He tries to steal their land, and she has to be the one to like try to stop it. The cool thing about her is that, like, she's a very just person. She's a very kind person, a sweet person, especially when she operates, like, you know, in her civilian clothes and stuff, because nobody knows her identity except for her maid or whatever. And, you know, so it's basically, you know, just like Zorro and everything. And the town people, they love her, but of course Montoya, he tries to tell the townspeople, oh, you know, she does this and she does that, and oh, she hurt this person or she stole this and stuff like that. For some reason, they always believe her. Now, what I don't understand is how the heck did nobody figure out who she is? Granted, every woman there has dark hair, either dark black hair or dark brown hair. Her hair is black, but then later on in the series, it turned brown. There's a reason for that. I'll get into that a little bit later. But there's only one blonde woman there, so they know it's not her. And the thing about this is, like, okay, everybody there speaks, well, everybody there has a Spanish accent, right? A Latino accent, a Hispanic accent, like you name it, right? Except for Grisham, who is like an American. And except for Dr. Helms, who is British. And it's like even Vera, who's like a white Spaniard, she has a Latino accent, right? But Tessa, the Queen of Swords, does not. She has a typical American sounding accent. So how in the world did people not know it's her? Because her voice is literally identical to that of, like, the Queen of Swords. She speaks with that of an American accent. Not to mention they both wear their hair very similar. Sometimes she'll fix it up, you know what I'm saying, her civilian times, but most of the time she just wears it down. And I'm just kind of like, how the heck did they not know it's her? And stuff. And, you know, a lot of stuff happens to her in this series, you know. Like, there's times where she has to fight her ex-boyfriend who she's in love with. And she has to fight her uncle and stuff. You know, her best friend, you know, gets into trouble with, like, the law when her boyfriend comes over, and she might lose her and stuff. A lot of the people that she knows in town are being, like, you know, bullied by that of the government, and she tries to help them out the best way she can, both as, like, as Tessa, and then both as that of the Queen. Even it's going as far as to paying people's money and stuff like that, but she has to watch so much suffering and so much death. But I tell you this right here, right now, she's not afraid to take a person's life. She has killed in the field, but she rarely does it. And it's like, you know, she's even gone as far as to tell the doctor to shoot Grisham because he was going to stab her and stuff. So she's not afraid to take a life, but it's just something she tries not to. I really wish they could have gave them a proper ending. They probably assumed that, you know, they would get like a second season or something like that, right? But sadly, it did not happen. Sometimes you just gotta wrap everything up in the first season and then start completely fresh and new with like a second, if you get like a second. Because, you know, with a show like this, it can go on and on and on, and you don't need multiple seasons. As long as there's a hero fighting injustice, you know that's what they're gonna do. But because she never found out who murdered that of her father, it's a huge letdown, you know what I'm saying? And there was never like no TV movie to wrap everything up. And like I said before, there's never even been like a proper DVD release over here. You know, you gotta give this show credit for having representation in a time period when there really wasn't anything like that, especially with the Latino community. Because the lead actress is Latina, and she's like the lead actress in a show that, you know, is technically predominantly Latin and everything, or at least Spanish. You know, they film in Spain, and, you know, there's a lot of extras. But when it comes to that of the main cast is predominantly white. There are like 4 main white characters, and there's only like, 2 Latinos for like the main cast. 3 if you count this one recurring character, but he's only a recurring character who don't appear in every episode. But yeah, everybody, like the main cast is like white, except for the 2 Latina actresses and stuff. And a Latina actress led this show, you know what I'm saying? And that's something to be proud of, because you don't rarely see something like that in the time in which it came out, and when the show is kind of considered a predominantly white show. And the lead actress, Tessie Santiago, she was actually nominated in 2001 for an AMA award, and she was up against Tia Carrere and Gina Torres, and lost to that of Gina. Now I'm trying to think, what show did Gina have around that time? I think it was Cleopatra 2525. And I talked about that show years ago and stuff. And I also talked about the show that Tia Carrere was on, Relic Hunter. And all 3 shows were like syndicated. All were really good shows, all very different. Cleopatra 2525 is basically if the Matrix met Hercules and Xena. It had the fun of Hercules and Xena, but it felt like the Matrix. People go underground, machines took over, there's a resistance, you know, stuff like that. But it was very bright and colorful and a little bit silly. And then Relic Hunter was pretty much just like Indiana Jones and Tomb Raider. Now, what's really interesting is that 3 stars who have appeared in this show have all been in the Highlander television series. You have Peter, Valentine, and then of course there's Elizabeth Grayson. And they were all in the Highlander series and stuff. That's just like really cool and fascinating. Now, this show had like a lot of like famous guest appearances from a lot of famous people like Bo Derek, Daisy I have a hard time saying her last name. Daisy Fuentes. Whew, that's hard for me to get out. David Carradine. May he rest in peace. It was nice seeing him in roles other than like him playing an Asian man, because he's not Asian and stuff, you know. But there's a lot of other Spanish, like, you know, famous people who I've never heard of before. And of course, I've already reviewed the episode with that of Sung Hai Lee. And, you know, I've reviewed a couple of other episodes. That's the one where she came from, like, you know, I think Japan with, like, you know, her master. And then he died from some bandits. And, like, Montoya, like, you know, tricked her and stuff like that. And what was really cool is they got legendary swordsman, like stunt actor and choreographer, Anthony De longest to like appear in the pilot episode, and also he was the one who trained everybody on how to fight with the sword, and they look so good doing that. I think also he was in the Highlander series for like an episode and stuff. He's like really good. The Bo Derek episode with her, she had a son and he had like, you know, like a girlfriend or something, and somebody ended up getting shot. And Tessa only saw like her son come out, so she was like a witness and assumed he was like the murderer. So of course he's like pretty much gonna be like hung and everything, because there really is no trial back then. Basically, if you're like, you know, you get accused of something or somebody wants to frame you for something, you pretty much get like hung or shot or something like that, right? And so the mom has her bandits, they come to town, and you know, her and the queen, they eventually fight, but then they realize, oh, there was another person in the room who did the killing. In like, you know, the David Carradine episode, basically it's like him and his gang come to town, he fights the queen, and he gets injured really bad to where he forces the doctor to treat his wounds and stuff. He's like a scoundrel, and it's fun seeing him just like play that role, you know. There's an episode where like Vera gets in the middle of Grisham and the queen fighting, and she falls off her horse and goes into a coma. So basically this gives Montoya the idea of like issuing martial law, because he forces her husband to like do it and stuff. But there's a problem. She might wake up. So he sends Grisham in to like kill her and stuff, but he can't do it because that's his lover. So instead he just drugs her, keeping her asleep. And the only other person that knows that she's being drugged is that of the doctor. So Montoya orders Grisham to like murder the doctor and stuff like that, while like the queen has to like kidnap that Vera, wake her up, and make her tell the truth. There's an episode with Marta where, because like everybody gets like their own solo episode, which is really great. Pretty much all the other episodes are just like, you know, they're not even queen related, they're just like hero related type thing. You know, something bad happens, the hero comes in, that. But pretty much every person gets at least one solo episode, pretty much like dedicated to them. But you know, Tessa gets like at least a couple of more, like at least 2 or 3 solo ones and stuff, because she is the lead character and everything. Trying to think. I guess I'll go into individual episodes when I go to like, you know, the character profile. But there was one slave episode that didn't make no sense. So basically it's like, I guess like this British man, and he has 2 slaves, and his wife doesn't like slavery, so she basically kidnaps the slaves and take them into town or something like that. And so in this episode we learned that Montoya actually hates slavery, and he loves his horse that's dying. And so basically the slave owner's wife, she knows the doctor and everything, because I guess they were lovers back in the day. And the show isn't even really about the slaves, it's mostly about the 2 white people. What the world? So those are the only 2 black people ever on this show, and it's not even really about them. Oh boy, I swear. Like, seriously. That is one weird shaman episode where they kind of introduced like magical elements. I don't really understand that episode. I don't really remember much from it. I think that's one of my least favorite episodes. I just don't like it, you know. Because the show really doesn't deal in magic, really. Like, yeah, Marta has the sight, but it's very vague, and so I don't know, this episode just kind of like, you know, odd and everything, but like whatever. And there's a clip episode where Tessa, or the queen, and Grisham are like trapped in like a mine, and there's a bunch of clips from like older episodes, and that should have been like the finale and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of some other ones, but I can't really think of any off the top of my head. So let's just get into character profiles. In like, some of my favorite episodes is like Fever. Fever is basically there's a plague going around Santa Helena and a lot of people are sick. And so there's this man who like, trying to take care of his wife. She doesn't have no medicine. And he has a daughter and he's like very frantic. And so Montoya is basically rounding up a lot of the men in town and making them into soldiers. Interestingly, because he issued martial law in the finale, but he didn't do it here. He's just like rounding up farmers and stuff. And so this man doesn't want to do that. He just wants to attend to his wife. And then when he sees Montoya sick and getting medicine, because Montoya is forcing the doctor to like give him the medicine and him only and stuff. So the man steals it in the middle of the night and gives it to his wife. Grisham sees this and gets the medicine, and the man tries to fight him and Grisham kills him and stuff. And Grisham's gonna let Montoya die. And so the queen has to come in and find the medicine, and she does it in a very smart way because she's very intelligent. Basically, she made him, or she put this like powdery stuff in his drink that makes him really hot and sweaty, making him think that he has the fever. So he'll go out, look for the medicine, and she'll go and like get it and stuff. So Tessie Santiago, she plays that of Tessa Alvarado, aka the Queen of Swords. Technically, her title's a little bit longer than that. Is Donna Maria Tessa Alvarado. Donna because she's like a female dom and everything. I don't know where the Maria part comes from, but that's what it says on Wikipedia. So her father is Don Alvarado. And we don't know much about him because he dies in the opening of like the episode. And so like, he sent her off, like I said before, to Spain when she was 7, because she was born in California. And at 20, she learned how to fence with like a sword. Now, the actress, I think they gave her 2 or 3 months to learn how to fight with a sword. She had 3 primary like stunt women and a couple of others as well. But for the most part, like in the up close shots, she learned how to fence very well, and she was able to do her own stunts with the sword. That is amazing, and she was really gifted. Now, the actress, when she did her audition, she said that she knows that like in American projects and stuff like that, they tend to go with the more stereotype Latinos and stuff like that. So she dyed her hair because she has light green or brown, no, light brown eyes. And she dyed her hair black. But this is a weird thing. She says that her hair is blonde. In all the pictures I've ever seen her in, and like, this one movie I saw her in, I've never seen her with blonde hair. I wonder how blonde is it? I really wonder, because I've never seen her with blonde hair. Now, halfway into the series, her hair turns brown in one episode. And so when it comes to that of Tessie, boy, she is phenomenal in this role. Like the women, oh my God, the 3 women they got in this show are gorgeous. And they sound gorgeous and stuff. Oh my God, they're gorgeous. Anyway, she did a phenomenal job in this show. It sucks that her acting career has kind of slowed down a little bit, because I hate when I see that happen. When people are good, let them keep working and stuff, Now, I did see her in a movie because I was curious to see her in other stuff, and I was able to find that movie on YouTube. The movie was called The Cell 2. Now, of course, The Cell, the first one was made with Jennifer Lopez. I've never seen the first one, but the second one was direct to DVD. I don't remember much about it, but it was pretty good and everything. And so Tessa, not Tessie, but Tessa, the Queen of Swords, she's an aristocrat. She's very kind-hearted. She's a bit nosy sometimes when she's trying to like figure out what the bad guys are doing. But she comes off as this kind of she pretends to be kind of like this dopesy woman who can't really take care of herself when she actually can. Like, one thing they did about this show is that they didn't overpower her like Xena. She still do flips, but not those crazy Xena flips. She's extremely good with a sword, and she can beat any man with that of a sword. But she's not that strong. A man can easily manhandle her and stuff. And like it takes her a good while to like knock a person out. Like normally the best way for her to knock a person out is that she'll have them face something like prison bars or like a mountain cliffside, and she'll hit them as hard as she can with the back of her with the on her sword hilt. And sometimes it's not strong enough, and she has to give him like some extra, like, hitting and everything. And not only that, but like some of the men, like I said, overpower her to the point where sometimes they can like shove her around, throw her around. Like when these two strangers came into town they're thieves and everything. And they was trying to collect the reward on the bounty of the queen. And one of them was the skinny guy with a sword, and she beat him. But then there's the big guy who's huge, and she had a hard time with him. And so, like, her best defense in fighting men, since she ain't that strong, is to use her brain. And she uses it very well. Like, when she wants to, like, because she always fights in, like, the daytime. So when there's like gonna be like a hanging and she has to stop that, she'll have like 50 horses running at the same time, and she's on one, but you can't see her because she's hiding on the side of the horse. Or like one time, all the guards were gonna kill this one guy. So she creates like a smoke screen with like a bunch of horses running in, kicking up dirt. But one or two of them have like these giant like leaves or like a rug attached to them, creating like a fog of smoke of dirt and everything. And then she comes in when nobody can see her, and she frees like the guy. And I really like that about her. Like, she's quick on her feet, you know what I'm saying? And like, because when you don't have that much brawn, you got to use your brain and stuff. And because she's an aristocrat, she can just like, sneak into any kind of conversation, overhear it, and figure out what's going on. She really cares about the poor people in town and hates when the government, like, is so corrupt towards them, trying to steal their money and trying to steal their land, because these people are extremely poor. Now, in one episode, her boyfriend shows up in town. He's from Spain, and she loves him to death. And, like, he's a skilled swordsman, and Montoya hires him to assassinate the queen. He figures out who she is, and she's worried. She's worried that he's going to sell her out. It's even to the point where Marta has a gun and tells her, you're going to have to shoot him and everything. Because if not, he's going to expose your identity. And that's going to expose me. And you're going to lose your land and like your money and all this other stuff. And she was thinking about it at one point, but she didn't, because he decided he wasn't going to turn her in, but try to fight Montoya instead and end up dying. So many people she loves ends up dying because of Montoya or Grisham. One episode, her uncle comes into town from like, Madrid and everything. And because her father's gone, he kind of wants to kind of like, like a man needs to take over and blah, blah, and stuff like that. But then he sees the queen fighting the guards and he doesn't like that. So he tries to be like a hero of his own and fight the queen. This causes complications and everything because she can't fight her uncle, you know what I'm saying? Then there's that episode where the counterfeit queen comes in. Now I've already reviewed that episode. But mostly in this show, they don't do the whole, oh, she now has like a love interest and blah, blah, blah. They only did it from her past love interest. And I like that because it doesn't bog down the show. She's allowed to like, be her own character without like, having to rely on like a love interest. However, there is kinda a little thing with the doctor a little bit. And if they would have gotten a season 2, I think they would have built on that. Marta is played by Paulina Galvez. And so this is the only project I've ever seen her in. Now she's appeared in other stuff. I've just like, never seen it and stuff. And so she plays a gypsy who is like also that of like, like Tessa's like housekeeper, maid type person. She's known Tessa ever since she was 7 years old. And she's always put her life on hold for Tessa, always taking care of her. So she moves to like, Alta California when Tessa has to come back and, handle her father's affairs and everything. And she helps guide Tessa, not only in life, but with her Queen of Swords activity. And she's extremely protective of Tessa, even going as far as about to shoot somebody when they're about to either like, expose Tessa or like harm her or something like that. And when I say she puts her life on hold, see, there's an episode where she had a boyfriend, and back when they lived in Spain. Tessa never knew about this. And so he comes to visit them and everything. But he's kind of with like a group of kind of like bandits or like, pirate type people. And he brings his friend. His friend is nothing more but a thief and a con man. And so like they get in trouble even though he didn't do anything. And so like she explains to Tessa how like, she gave up a life with him just to take care of her and stuff like that. And Tessa is telling her, hey, look, man, follow your heart. Like, I can take care of myself. And there's a point where he, I think, proposed to her and stuff. Well, of course, because now he's about to be hung and all this other stuff, Marta tries to like help him and she ends up getting like caught because he goes out to like Tessa's place. She hides him and Marta gets in trouble. And so the Queen of Swords have to like rescue like Marta and everything. And of course she can't go back to live with Tessa and stuff. But more stuff happens here and there, but the Queen ends up saving them both. And it's to the point where Marta decides, you know what, I've waited like this many years and I haven't seen I can wait some more and everything. And so she decides to stay with that of Tessa. She's also is able to read tarot cards. And somehow she has this type of magical insight into stuff. It's really like the only type of supernatural ability like, in the show. And it's just kind of odd, but it works for the show, so I'm okay with it because it's not overly too flashy. You know what I'm saying? She's also like, she doesn't like, she knows a little bit about medicine, but not really. Like when the fever episode, she gets sick because she's taking care of that one lady. And so because of that, Tessa gives her that powdery stuff and she tells her, how much like dosage did you put in there, because you can have me sweating like a pig and everything. And so she doesn't even want Tessa to take care of her, and Tessa's like, no, you've taken care of me all my life and now it's like my time to take care of you. They have more of a like a sisterly cousin type bond than they do of like head mistress and like servant and stuff. There's another episode where like she kind of falls for a guy. There's like these two thieves that come into town. One's skinny, scrawny, the other one's really big and strong. And so when she's getting her carriage fixed, it falls on a man. He lifts it up and she's very impressed by that. And so like she ends up falling for him. But of course he made a deal with Montoya and stuff. And so when his life is in jeopardy and so is his friend, you know, she doesn't even believe that he could do anything bad, but of course he's a thief and everything. Nothing really happens of this relationship other than them going on a date, but that's about it. Colonel Luis Ramirez Montoya. So he is played by Valentin Pelka. And actually, he was offered this role. It was written for him in mind because, you know, the person who worked on the show also worked on Highlander and stuff. And this dude is a phenomenal actor. He's a British actor. He's playing like a Spaniard and everything. I actually thought his Spaniard like accent was real, but it's completely fake. This man is an amazing villain. I put him up there with that of like Lex Luthor. He's very cold, very dark-hearted, and very cunning. He can like manipulate anybody by like his charming voice and his evil stare and everything. The man is ruthless. Like he doesn't even give people like a trial. Basically, if something he wants or something somebody's done, he will have them hung and everything. And especially when he's up to no good and somebody figures something out, he tries to have that person hung or shot. Grisham does whatever he wants, and he keeps him around because he thinks of him as like his little dog. If he says jump, Grisham will like jump and everything. This man is greedy. He always wants to like, you know, take people money in the form of taxes, people's gold. If somebody comes to him is all like, oh, my gold got stolen. Well, he'll have Grisham go get it, but then he'll steal it for himself. He's always trying to take the Dom's land and their money. Like he is just that greedy and stuff. But he comes from a pretty wealthy family. His mom is rich and his dad's a low-key type aristocrat. And like I said before, he doesn't like slavery and he loves his dying horse. In one episode, the fever episode, he gets really sick and he orders Dr. Helms to make medicine for him and him only. So when Grisham wants, like, you know, Montoya out the picture, he's going to let him die by stealing the medicine that the other guy stole from Dr. Helms and stuff. And it's when you see him at his most vulnerable and everything. During like an inspection, he bribes his inspector, like, you know, to let him keep his job. But then when things go awry and everything, he just ends up killing that dude and, you know, keeps the money and stuff. Now, in the Counterfeit Queen episode, which I reviewed a long time ago, like there's a woman who's a thief and she pretends to be the Queen of Swords. He figures this out and he uses her to make the queen look like a horrible, terrible person. And him and her are gonna, like, you know, steal and do all this other stuff. But then when he tries to have her killed and everything, she tries to kill him too. And when like she gets shot, the one thing he asks is like, where's my money? Where's my gold? And she's all like, you know, she'll see him in the underworld and everything. And he did care about her, but he cares about money and gold more. That's really all this man cares about. And he hates Dr. Helms and stuff, even to the point where that's the only doctor in town and he's willing to have that man murdered. In the finale, he issues martial law when that Avira is hurt and he tricks the Doms into handing over all their power and stuff. This is something he's been wanting for the longest time. He wants a massive army to take on like the Queen and anybody else who opposes him. Captain Marcus Grisham is played by Anthony Lemke, and he's a Canadian actor, but he's the only like American character like in the show. He is a scoundrel, and he is just like a monster. But he'll do whatever Montoya wants because Montoya, well, he's scared of him, and also like Montoya knows his secret. See, Grisham is a deserter. He fought in the War of 1812 and he shot his commanding officer. And he, like, what was it? He was supposed to get hung, but somehow he weaseled his way out of there and his boss ended up like about to get hanged instead. That's the episode, The Hangman. Now that man turned out to be like a bandit and he came looking for Grisham. He scoured all over America looking for him to get his revenge. To where when Montoya is out of town, he takes over and has Grisham does whatever he wants. The Doms get arrested and it's up to the Queen of Swords and all the Doms' wives to try to take back the town and everything. And so when it comes to Grisham, he is the one who shot Tessa's father, but she has no idea. He hates the Queen of Swords and they're constantly fighting and she's constantly like knocking him out. But he hates Dr. Helms even more because Dr. Helms is a gentleman who gets in his way. Now he's sleeping, having an affair with Vera. And so like, but he's also willing to mess around with other women. He's extremely attracted to that of Tessa, but like she's not into him. Now he does care about Vera because when Montoya wanted her dead, he was gonna smother her with a pillow, but he just couldn't do it. He was supposed to shoot her in the head, but he couldn't do that either. So instead, he just looked and grabbed some medicine, gave it to Vera, and then knocked her out. And so to keep the doctor from spilling the beans, he blew up the doctor's office, hoping the doctor would be in there. This man is also willing to cheat and steal. Like, he's willing to steal money from Montoya. He's even willing to let Montoya die of like a virus and everything. He is just that evil. Now, in the episode leading up to the finale, him and the Queen get trapped in a minefield. And that's when we have the clip episode. And, he is just literally like an evil person. Now, one thing you will notice in the second episode, all of the guards, Grisham and Montoya, are wearing completely different outfits than what they do in the rest of the series. This is because the director set the tone for like the show, but then that was like the first episode film, and they realized they needed outfits that look more traditional from back in the day. That's why in every other episode, the outfit has now changed. Now, I've seen the actor in Hulu's The Hardy Boys. He took over in the second season and in the third as the father. Dr. Robert Helms is played by a real-life actor, also a doctor, Peter Wingfield. And so, yeah, this actor is actually a doctor in real life. Man, I had no idea until I looked this up on the researching the show and stuff. And I remember him as Mythos from the Highlander television series. And he's a British actor. He plays a British character. He comes in the second episode and he has somewhat of a dark past. He fought in the Napoleonic War and everything. And he was like, a soldier trying to snuff out a spy. And so when he finds that spy, he grabs the map and he ends up killing that guy. And so because of that, his brother is looking for him and stuff. He has a really interesting past. In that slave episode, he once was involved with the slave owner's wife and everything. In the show, he just plays a very gallant man. He's very professional, very well spoken, and he doesn't have time for crap. Like, he finds Tessa to be very annoying, like a little ritzy, smart aristocrat and everything. And as for the queen, he likes the idea of her helping out the people. What he doesn't like is that she's willing to kill. And so in the episode, he has to save her life and he ends up killing a man. She ends up killing another man to save him when his back was turned. This pisses him off because he just doesn't want to take a life anymore. But in the finale episode, when Vera was hurt, and of course, you know, Montoya is all like, the doctor might spill the beans, so you gotta go kill him. And so, like, the queen ends up saving him. And it's right then and there we see these two give each other kind of like the look. If they were to get a second season, most likely they would have been like, you know, doing the whole will they, won't they thing. He hates Montoya to death because Montoya is a scoundrel. But he hates Grisham even more. Even going as far as getting into a fist fight with him, pulling a gun on him, and other stuff. Now, when it comes to this actor, he had the option of either playing the doctor or Grisham. I'm glad he played a doctor. Vera Hidalgo, I can't say that, is played by Elsa Paaki. Paaki? I think that's how you say her name. Anyway, she is a very young, sweet, kind-hearted Spaniard. And so I was very shocked. 'Cause I'm all like, why does this white lady with blonde hair have a Spanish accent? I didn't know at that time that people from Spain were also white. Because, you know, like the European settlers from Britain and stuff like that. And so she's a very sweet, kind-hearted person. However, she married for money, and we find out the reason why. Her ex-boyfriend came into town with his gang, and it turns out that when she was younger, she did all kind of inappropriate stuff for money just to survive. You know, she had no education, but she had looks and everything. And so she got by hanging out with the bad crowd. Kind of like a Joker Harley thing, but she was somewhat of a good girl, you know. So when she moved to Santa Helena, she found a dom and used her feminine wiles to get him to marry her. And her husband is older and overweight, but she loves the money and power and stuff. Sadly, however, she is sleeping with Captain Grisham, and her husband has no idea. She's mostly just in the show just to sleep with him and to talk to Tessa a little bit and stuff. Like, she thinks of Tessa as her friend. She's very stuck up, but she's also sweet and kind. The only people who know of the affair is Montoya, the queen, Marta, and Helms. Dr. Helms knows, but I think it's only because the queen told him. Like, literally the only person who don't know is like her husband. And so they keep her secret. You know, they could expose Montoya at any point about the whole martial law thing, but they do it so they don't have to harm that Vera. She'll lose everything, you know what I'm saying? And when it comes to the queen, she likes the queen because the queen stands up for people. But when she sees the queen fighting that of Captain Grisham, she decides to interject and try to fight the queen with the umbrella while riding a horse. Grisham, being the idiot, tries to get her out the way, and she falls off her horse, gets in a coma, and this is when Montoya tricks the Doms into giving him martial law and everything. I wish they could have done a bit more with the character, have more of a personality to see if she's like, you know, a real good girl or if she's really like a naughty type girl, you know. Now, I've seen Elsa in the Fast and Furious movies. She's also married to Chris Hemsworth, who plays Thor. She had this one show that's kind of like a hybrid of sirens or mermaids or something like that. I tried to watch it on Netflix. I couldn't really get into it. Now, Dom Jasper Hidalgo. He is the husband of Vera. And he's actually a recurring character. Now, I'm not sure how to say his first name. It looks like Taco, T-A-C-H-O. But if I'm trying to remember my Spanish correctly from so many years ago, I think A's are supposed to sound like O's, I think. So is Toco or something like that? Or it's supposed to sound like a U. I forget. I'm just going to call him Taco. Taco Gonzalez. And so he is a very kind, sweet man who loves Vera to death. And there was one scene where he tells her, you know I don't look the best and everything, but just know I love you with all my heart. And I'm just like, oh man, that's so sweet and everything. He's a Dom, and he doesn't like Montoya because, of course, Montoya is always trying to take his land and his money. He will do anything for Vera. He even handed over all his power with the rest of the Doms just to give Montoya martial law for, the whole Vera getting in a coma. When Grisham was about to confess about what he did, Jasper said he will kill the man who knocked her off the horse, which causes him to lie on the queen. And when I say this man would do anything for his wife, he will. Remember when I said that Vera's ex came into town and tried to take the town over and stuff like that? He told Montoya, do whatever it takes to get rid of this man, blah, 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 stuff like that. But of course, Montoya wants something in return. So he tries to make like a deal with that guy and stuff like that. Jasper I don't know if he was on horseback or in his carriage, had a musket. Shot that man dead for kidnapping his wife and everything. When I say this man will do anything, he will do anything to protect her. So yeah, sadly the show didn't last past a season. It's a shame. This is one of those times where it's like, you need a show to build an audience. I don't know what the ratings were like, but they was probably low. I don't know if people in Canada are huge, Western type fans and stuff. But this was a really cool show, and people still talk about it till this day. A lot of people really have a fondness to this show. Now, remember when I said the people at Sony tried to sue because it's too similar to Zorro? Well, as we all know, Antonio Banderas had his Zorro movies, only two. The first one was good, the second one not so well. And so after that, there's been a couple of other Zorro shows. There was this one Spanish Zorro show that had the same exact costume as Antonio Zorro, but I think it's supposed to be unrelated and stuff. That lasted for over 100 episodes. I've never watched it because I don't speak Spanish, but it's on Tubi. I might just give it a shot because I love the intro so much. Then Amazon came out with their Zorro series, once again in Spanish, but it's English dub. And I've said this before, I hate dubs. I don't like it because their mouth movements don't line up to what the English dub sounds like. And they always dub it with white people, which is annoying. When you watch a Chinese or Japanese movie, get an Asian person to voice them. Don't get a white person because it doesn't sound real. And that's the same way it is with a lot of these Hispanic shows and stuff. I watched an episode and a half of that. At first it was kind of alright, but I just couldn't get into it. And they kept adding Native American magic and everything. And I don't want to see magic in Zorro. And I couldn't even tell if the actor was white or what. I forget what race he is or what country he's from. I think he's from Spain, but he looks white. And even in the show, the Native American lady's all like, why did you send a white boy to be the new Zorro and everything? So I don't know what race he is. He could be mixed with white and Spanish. But in that show, basically, like from what I've gathered in the first episode, it seems that this Zorro is picked by the Native Americans, like a destiny type thing. And so they do like, you know, the magic dream walking type thing, and they picked who the next Zorro is supposed to be, and it's just very different. Now there's supposed to be a French version, still with Spanish actors and everything. At least I hope they're Spanish actors, but it's supposed to be a Zorro show filmed in France or something like that, right? And so like, I don't know how that's going to turn out. I forget who's supposed to make that. Then on the CW, Sofia Vergara was going to produce a gender-bent female Zorro, but the CW passed on that when they got acquired by Nexstar. However, CBS just announced that they're going to make a gender-swapped Zorro, and so that's in development right now. I say instead of doing that, just make a Queen of Swords type show. I mean, you know, yes, this was a Zorro knockoff, but it was still good and like, you know, somewhat original and stuff. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.